Guys. Okay, so saw a story the other day that made me wonder if the next phase of Muslim aggression isn't going to come from overseas or from refugees or from immigrants, but from our from within, from ethnic Western. What's the right word? You know, you try to not be racist. From European origin converts to Islam. Uh, for lack of a better term, white people converting to Islam. I tell you what got me to thinking about it was an article I read on the Drudge Report, linked from the Drudge Report, about a German imam who got into a fist fight with his buddy because they were arguing about which one of them was a truer devotee to Islam. And it was just funny at first until I realized the imam, who is one of the top Muslim clerics in Germany apparently, or top Muslim preachers, or I can't remember the exact terminology, he's ethnically German. I mean, he's a big burly white guy with blonde hair. Was a professional boxer for years, had an undefeated professional record, and he converted to Islam back in 2001. And now he's getting into fistfights with his friends about which one of them's more radical. You know, in the West we have a culture, and that's all it is culture. It's not race-based, but a culture of innovation, a culture of risk-taking, a culture of excellence and ambition. And when that gets harnessed by Islam, I'm sorry, we're grilling and the smoke is just wafting. When that gets harnessed by Islam, to these young men who are going to feel a drive to prove themselves and prove how true their faith is, I just can't help but wonder how it's going to play out. You know, are these guys going to be some of the most effective Muslim fighters? Maybe in history, because, you know, historically Muslims don't make good warriors, and it's not a racial thing. It's because Islam is not a race. Now listen to me. Islam is not a race. Islam is an ideology. All right. Anyone can convert into Islam. Anyone can convert out of Islam. Islam, in very short order, in very few generations, crushes people's souls. It crushes ambition. It crushes drive. It crushes excellence and prosperity. No Muslim country is prosperous. The closest you get is Turkey. I've been to Turkey twice. It's not a place you'd want to live. It's not all as bad as some of them, but it's still it's nowhere up to our standard of living here in the West. But our young men are disaffected with our culture, and our culture is dying. And in our culture, men are subjected to all these things that feels wrong to them. You know, we gotta, you know, basically we're subjected to women and false morality and all this stuff. And we're supposed to play nice and be nice, and the masculinity is suppressed and everything. So I just can't help but wonder if we're not going to start seeing more and more of these young men who, listen, you know, they're coming from small families. Some of these guys are only children, or they're only children of much older parents. You know, you might have someone who's 16, 20 years old, and their parents are in their 60s and 70s. We're having children, you know, as 35 and 40. Stinking, I can't remember who, some pop star recently, or no, maybe it was some woman on TV I saw just recently, 47 years old, trying to have children. That's ridiculous. You know, when she's 67, if she's successful today, when she's 67-year old, this kid will be 20 and just getting out on its own. So we have this generation of lost young men who are connected to nothing. You know, don't even have family. Their parents might be only children or two or three children. And then Islam comes along and tells them they can be strong and they can be powerful and they can belong to something, just like gangs do for inner city kids. I mean, this is nothing new or unusual. But what's kind of scary about this is that you know, if Islam was able to recruit a bunch of really kind of driven fighters who are innovative and willing to think outside the box and not do the Muslim thing, which is to, you know, hold the rifle over the wall and spray bullets and shout "Inshallah," you know, if God wills it, my bullets will fly true. But if they got some guys who really were dedicated to excellence in war fighting and doing some damage to prove who they were, not just, you know, fulfill the bare minimum of their religious duty in order to get to heaven and have 70 virgins, it could be scary. You know, you could have the Chechens again. The Chechens are some of Islam's best fighters right now. They were the backbone of ISIS. They've had a lot of the success that Islam has had in Iraq and other places was due to the Chechens. And in Chechnya, you know, they've been able to stand up to the Russians fairly well, and they've done some really horrific attacks. The Breslin School attack and the Moscow Theater and some other stuff. If Islam could start converting, you know, even a handful of Western young men, and harness that fierce warlike nature that we've had for centuries now, that goes back to our Viking roots, it could hasten the death of the West even more than is going to happen anyway. All right, that's it, guys. You know, Islam's one of my things. I don't have a crystal ball, but it seems to me that our society is set up right now to start seeing a lot of converts, a lot of disillusioned young men converting out of what they think is Christianity into Islam. You know, they're not converting out of Christianity. We haven't been a Christian nation or a Christian society in generations, but that's what they'll think is happening. Unfortunately, they'll be converting out of one humanist-based nihilistic ideology into another humanist-based nihilistic ideology, and from one feminist culture into another feminist culture, because Islam is feminism. It's just reversed. I'm going to do a video about that soon. But you know, they're going to get over there and they're going to feel a need to prove themselves, and they're going to come with a Western style sense of urgency and drive to achieve and succeed. And my guess is they're going to be pretty effective at it. Listen, we're already seeing here in America, our most effective mass killers have been young men, young white men who are connected to fathers or families. The Sandy Hook school shooting was one of these guys. And Islam's going to start speaking to these young men. Right now, they're video games in their basements, and their mothers do. But eventually, they're going to start finding Islam and start moving over in that direction. And when they do, we're going to see some really spectacular attacks out of these guys. That's it. Appreciate your time. Thank you.